Hi there. This is the fourth Panopto presentation. I hope to make this shorter, more to the point than some of the past ones. Anyway, I've graded your motivation blog posts, and I'm going for the interpersonal relation ones in the next day or so. There were some issues with those motivation ones. I asked for a theory of leadership or a leadership style that would be most motivating for some other person. And some of you put not a leadership style but a motivation style. So I just want you to be careful and make sure that you follow the directions. Only 1 point, not a big deal. If you notice this course, the most heavily weighted item is that final exam. And I want you to start thinking about the final exam. In all these presentations, I am putting concepts that are defined, quoted and defined in the PowerPoints. All those concepts are found in a document in the content folder of the Sakai site, the course site. I want you to know all those terms. I want you to be able to describe them, use them in conversations. I want you to be able to apply them all to yourself. So all the theories of motivation, all the theories of leadership, all the influence tactics, all the concepts that we do today and next week and the week after will be there. My philosophy of teaching is that you, as a student, will come out of the class understanding more concepts, and the concepts I want you to know from this class are on that list. I want you to be able to know the concepts, be able to define them, be able to know them well enough so that how they differ from other concepts, and then I want you to be able to apply them all to your leadership style and to other leadership style. I want you to be able to apply them also. So you come out of the class more educated. If you have any questions about the final, let's just email me, and I'll at some point, we've got to set a time for the final, and then I'll arrange it. The format for the final is at the end of that vocabulary document. I will just send it all to you. It'll be an assignment that you'll have 2 hours to do, and we just got to find the right 2 hours. It's got to be the same 2 hours for everybody, of course. Okay, now this week's topic is leading organizations into the future, and because credibility theory of leadership, leaders are forward-looking. So let's kind of unbundle that a little bit, as well as other materials, because that's sort of like consistent with what we've talked about with trust and what we've talked about with interpersonal relationships. So from the reading, Kouzes and Posner, Focusing on the Future, Chapter 4, need for leaders to, what they recommend is that leaders take 30 minutes a day and think about the future. In other words, to be a leader and to be a forward-looking leader takes effort and time. And you've got to put in that effort. You've got to understand the strengths of your own organization. You've got to look at the external environment, constantly collect information, ask customers what they think, or ask clients what they think about the external environment, what your competitive advantage is, and then think about how the organization should develop in the future. What future need, what future place in the industry will your organization be? It takes a lot of work. You're not going to be good at it at first. And as you develop your vision, you're going to have to refine it. And that's wonderful. That's fine. I want you to work on that. So here's a little thing. Share your ideas with others, gain knowledge and insights, communicate your vision as a leader. So not only do you have to communicate your vision, you have to convince others that your vision is the best. And if there's any, so a lot of times, if as you're progressing in your organization, as you're being promoted or vying for promotion and you have other candidates, your candidacy may be better because of your vision. So, good luck. Concepts. Well, when you look at forward-lookingness, there's a few concepts that are relevant. One here is forecasting. Predicting environmental changes. Okay, so forecasting is something important. Now, if you are in the organization and you have a better ability to forecast than others, this gives you a lot of power in the organization. That's one thing that it does, as well as increase your ability as a leader. But if you have the ability to predict maybe how government decisions will be made, or who's going to win an election, or what product features customers will like, or if a certain product is going to grow in sales, or if a certain product is going to decline in sales. If you have the ability to predict these things, you have power, because predicting these things will give the organization stability and predictability. Maybe not stability, but predictability. And predictability is a good thing for organizations, because people can operate better when they can predict the future. Another concept is this interesting idea called appreciative inquiry. And I have a couple here. There are a lot of terms like this, but appreciative inquiry is one of those terms that enables firms to go through a process where everybody, not just the leaders, but everybody, leaders and followers and everybody, can contribute to the future planning, the vision of an organization, which is best practice. And then everybody can be involved in implementing that vision. And because they own it, they're more likely to give their passion to it. So this is another key in the puzzle of leadership today. Now, organizational change strategy, attention away from its own problems, and focuses on potential and positive elements. So good stuff here. 4 parts to it. 1, identifying the strengths of an organization. Be positive. Envisioning what the organization can become. So appreciative inquiry is different from maybe problem-centered inquiry, where you focus on problems and how to solve problems. Very negative. Appreciative inquiry is more positive. So discovery, dream, and then dialogue, how the organization could be better, and get some short-term goals, and the short-term goals can be implemented. Delivering. Discovery, dreaming, designing, delivering. Another one, future search. An organizational change strategy that consists of system-wide sessions, lasting a few days. So it's one of those things where groups of people within a firm will get together and you'll identify trends in the environment. It could be positive trends, it could be negative trends, and then given that trend, how can we adapt? So a trend might be outsourcing. If everyone in your firm is outsourcing, what should you do? You could outsource and be like everyone else. You could produce in maybe a place like Mexico or China, or you could not outsource and produce and differentiate yourself in the go against the trend. But that's future search. Okay, next reading. You can't do it alone. To lead, you need to develop strong, value-laden interpersonal relationships with key others. Yeah, I can't think of a leader, an effective leader who sort of was alone. Most every effective leader I can think of has a few confidants, and maybe many confidants, that he or she can trust, that is strongly bonded, has a strong and deep relationship with. And leaders need others because nobody knows everything. The smartest person in the world doesn't know a fraction of what it takes to make an organization succeed. So let's get a team together. Team of competent people, and between those competent people have strong, value-laden relationships. So page 65, it's about intimacy, familiarity, empathy. So I resonated with those words, and I think that in a success, I'd advise you to consider figuring out who you're going to have on your team. Who can you trust? Who are your trusted posse? Who's your trusted team? Who's your cabal? Who are the people that you get around with? Now, last week we did something about trust and interpersonal relationships. What's different about this a little bit is you're united around a shared vision. So within your organization, deep relationships with people with a shared vision. There's also a little part about in this chapter about making others take ownership, or enabling others to take ownership of operations. I would say whenever possible. Delegate to others and trust them to do it well. Support them if necessary. Watch them, of course, to evaluate the progress, and if something's going wrong, then take the corrective action. So, but the point here is to consistent with job characteristics model, autonomy. Give autonomy. Give feedback too. And Phillips chapter 8. Exercise a strong hand, be decisive. So Lincoln took very strong action. Sometimes there's a little vignette about him restocking Fort Sumter. Instead of, Fort Sumter was in South Carolina, so it could have been attacked at any time, and a lot of people wanted Lincoln to just abandon the fort. Lincoln said, no, let's restock the fort and let's keep it there. And then lo and behold, what happened was the Confederacy attacked it. That was a controversial decision, but you see the way it worked out? Once that fort was attacked, then the war started. And the war needed to start. The earlier the war started, the better for Lincoln, because then he could defeat the secessionists, the states' rights people would be weaker than the North. They couldn't develop foreign allies and the like. And another example that I mentioned, because I got a comment in the last class that I was very sycophantic in terms of being very positive about Lincoln. But I'm going to tell you, Lincoln took very strong action, very decisive, in a negative way, possibly negative way. Early in the war, Lincoln actually sent troops to the Maryland legislature and prevented it from taking a vote on secession from the Union. That vote probably would have passed. Maryland was a slave-owning state at the time, and there was a lot of sympathy for the Confederacy in Maryland. If Maryland had gone to the south, D.C. would have been surrounded and the war would have taken a different turn. But Maryland fought for the North. And the way that Maryland fought for the North was that Lincoln sent troops to the Maryland legislature and imprisoned some of the key delegates, and so that a vote couldn't take place. Very controversial, but Lincoln would say, I have to preserve the Union, and I will take extreme measures if necessary. I will even violate the Constitution if it means saving the country. Now, so Lincoln was very decisive, excellent, and tough, strong, good. But there's also in page 96 of this chapter a very interesting little paragraph that Lincoln actually used what we call the rational decision-making model. First of all, you collect the facts. Second of all, you consider possible solutions. You weigh the consequences, and we call that weighting the consequences. And be consistent with policy objectives. I would say that consistency with policy objectives would be one of the things that would give a consequence a bigger weight. And E, effectively communicate and implement the decision. He saw decisions through. So while it seems that Lincoln was very decisive, maybe rash at times. He actually wasn't. He's just spent a lot of time thinking about what was important and devising the appropriate plans that were consistent with his objectives. So not just simply responding to the environment in a willy-nilly way, but whenever action needed to be happen to do something key, like preserve the country, he took very decisive action. Okay, some concepts from your reading. Decisive leadership. Leadership characterized by quickly forming an opinion, and that quickness in Lincoln's case was not was because he already knew his values and he knew his vision, and he could be decisive because his opinions were already formed and concrete. The problem with decisive leadership is that leaders will try to be decisive and try to act quickly when actually they don't have a concrete sense of what their values are, and they'll make rash and bad decisions. Another concept I want you to mention: self-concept as a leadership competency. So remember the competency model of leadership. It's like the credibility theory of leadership. There are certain competencies that associate with leadership, and I'm not going to go back and forth, but self-concept is one of them. And a positive, it consists of 4 parts. 1, positive self-evaluation as a leader, so you're positive about being a leader. 2, high self-esteem. 3, self-efficacy, which is a belief that you can get things done, belief that you can be a leader. And 4, internal locus of control, which means I have control over my life. My life isn't determined by luck or the stars or something outside me. I have control. Those 4 things are defined self-concept of leadership. Note there is not a word here, self-confidence. Self-confidence is not a clear term according to the research, so we use these other terms: positive self-evaluation, high self-esteem, and self-efficacy. That seems like self-confidence, and internal locus of control. So those 4 parts. Okay, readings. Phillips chapter 9, lead by being led. Well, a way to get passion out of followers is by giving them credit, and they know that they'll get credit for what they do. And as long as followers are motivated and competent, what leaders can do is get out of the way, and let them take credit, as long as they're doing the right thing. So leaders do have to maybe direct and focus their efforts, but it's a matter of directing and focusing, not doing it for them. Now, not all leaders can do this. In my experience, a lot of leaders don't have what it takes to let others take credit for accomplishments. Is it humbleness? Is it patience? Is it self-controlled? I don't know. I think that if leaders are able to let followers take credit for something, it might be just being an exercise of emotional intelligence, that you understand that this is what your follower needs in order to contribute to the organization. Anyway, and lead by being led also means that leaders don't rush in and take charge and solve problems. Leaders can rush in and let others get together and solve the problem. There's this wonderful little vignette on page 100 to 102 of the Phillips book, and let me just sort of quickly review the notes on that, what I think about that. First of all, a bunch of senators wanted Lincoln to reorganize his cabinet, and the senators had actually been talked to by the Secretary of the Treasury, Salmon Chase. Now, Salmon Chase was an aggressive and ambitious man, and he was very competent. He was a good Secretary of the Treasury, but he also had his differences with Lincoln on a number of issues. And in this case, Salmon Chase wanted to have a higher position in the cabinet. So he advocated, he said that he told the senators that the cabinet wasn't informing Lincoln about everything that was going on, and and a few other lies. So Lincoln called a meeting of and in particular, the Secretary of State, Seward, was the one that Salmon Chase was saying was being unfaithful to Lincoln. So Lincoln called a meeting of his cabinet, everyone except for Seward, and including Chase, and he brought the senators in the same room, locked the door, and said, "Oh, okay. So now what is the issue here with Seward?" And Salmon Chase was caught in a bind. If he told what he had told the senators, and the other cabinet members would call him a liar because he was lying. So what he had to do was admit the truth, that indeed Seward had been a loyal person to Lincoln. Then Salmon Chase was embarrassed in front of the senators. After the meeting, he submitted his resignation, and Lincoln said, "I'll think about it." And that gave Lincoln a very nice position over Salmon Chase. Okay, chapter 10, set goals and be results oriented. There's an emotional side of leadership. You need passion, you need persistence to overcome barriers. That's called self-efficacy too. That you just confident that you're going to overcome all the barriers. And but it's not just all about passion, because when it comes to results, you got to be concrete, you got to be rational, and you got to say, okay, but what we want is to win this account, we want to win this battle, or we want to have certain positive results. I use this term SMART goals. SMART goals means, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time dependent. That's one way to look at SMART, but SMART goals are good. It's a good way to define what goals should be followed. I don't put that as a term for you to learn because SMART means different things to different people, but let's look at least the SMAT. Specific, measurable, attainable, and time dependent. R means different things to different people, but good goals. There's also a point about, you need passion, you need persistence, you need results, but be careful about defining the results too clearly, because events are sometimes unpredictable and there may be obstacles that you need to go around. That's where this last point, very interesting in chapter 10, that if there's a barrier in your way that you just can't attack directly, then be flexible and go around the barrier. And there's a story about stumps, that the guy plows around the big stumps in the field, the little ones he could get rid of. Just plow around the big stumps. Okay. Chapter 11, keep searching until you find your grant. Now, Lincoln went through a lot of generals before he found Ulysses S. Grant, who won the Civil War for him. He appointed some people to general, and you don't know how someone's going to be as general of your army, because it's a gory, it's a bloody, it's a stressful, people die for you situation. And a few of the generals that Lincoln worked with went crazy, which is understandable. Grant apparently consumed a lot of alcohol, but that didn't keep him from functioning quite well. So, how do you find the right people to work with? Well, select as best you can, but then monitor them, support them in word, support them in deed, support them in resources for 3 to 5 months. 3 to 5 months is a key thing here. It takes 3 to 5 months, according to the learned needs theory, maybe at least 3 to 5 months for people to develop the passion, the need for power, the need for whatever, and to fully and to fully develop the hunger to do a job well. Then, and observe them. Use something called 360-degree performance evaluations. Look at what do the subordinates of this say, what do the other generals say about this general, and how are the results. And Lincoln found that most generals that he appointed were wanting. The best ones are aggressive and competent. That was Grant. And once Grant, he would go out and he had fire in the belly. He would go out and just, I'd attack them here, attack them here, attack them here. He didn't attack them like Burnside did, or Hooker did, or some of these other generals, and attack them and lose. He attacked Lee and the Confederate Army in a straightforward way, and then he kept on attacking, using his advantage, which is technology. They could build bridges over streams, and also number of soldiers. Just kept on sacrificing soldiers because the Union was losing soldiers, the South would also lose soldiers. Grant understood that, and he just kept on attacking. And the term here is persistence. Okay, now to end this presentation, I'm giving you a challenge, and it's about being forward-looking. Look at your organization, identify 3 goals that it could attain in the next year. Share these goals with someone else, a coworker, subordinate, supervisor, or others. Talk about it. Actually, talk about these goals with as many people as possible. It could be informally, it could be formally, but if you know your organization, you should have some idea as to where the organization should go. And then people will respond. They might say, that's ridiculous because of X, that's ridiculous because of Y. Fine. So modify the goals. Stick with goals. Stick being forward-looking. Repeat. So modify the goals and then share them again. Get more feedback. Share again. Get more feedback. And the reason I challenge you to do this last point. In business today, not enough organizations have dialogues about future goals and plans. Often the dialogues that we get are just tactics, short-term tactics, maybe some values, maybe some motivational speeches. Difficult to say. But future goals and plans are best done with input from throughout the organization. And people should argue, should dialogue, should create, modify, give input to the vision and goals that the organization needs to change. Bonus. Also, in your discussion about goals and plans for the organization, talk about values of the organization. Can you come up with a statement about what your organization values? And if so, do this challenge for that too. That's it for today. I'm shutting down. Good luck on the discussion boards. Good luck preparing for the final. I love your feedback. I love the way that you guys are collaborating and talking to each other on the discussion boards. I hope there's more of that going on behind the scenes. This is a group process, and I like that that's happening. Till next week.